the mystery of the princess who left it all beneath the hush of silver dunes, where falcons sail and night resumes. The desert keeps its ancient vow. It never speaks, yet knows somehow. She came one dawn in veils of white, her eyes like dawn, her soul like night. No escort loud, no royal train, just whispered steps across the plain. The guards bowed low, they felt her grace, but questions trembled on each face. Why would a princess leave her throne to walk the sands, to be alone? The wind replied in sighs and songs that some truths right what power wrongs. And though her jewels caught the sun, her heart had lost what love had won. In palace halls her name still shone, yet love had turned her heart to stone. She'd watched the world in mirrored gold, and saw her soul grow still and cold. He was the poet, Dubai's own flame, a prince whose verses carved her name. Their hearts had met where duty ends, in lines where silence bends. But fate, the unseen architect, had other plans to intersect. The courtiers spoke of law and land, of ties a crown must understand. And so she smiled, as royals do, while every smile inside withdrew. Her laughter filled the gilded hall, yet tears were trapped beneath it all. One night, beneath a crescent moon, she wrote her truth, her heart's monsoon. With trembling hand, she signed her choice, to free her heart, to free her voice. Let them have the gold, she wrote. My peace is worth each lavish note. She sealed the page, and with a sigh, watched palace lights fade from the sky. At dawn she left, no trumpets played, just shifting sand, her only parade. The city woke to tales untold, of how a princess gave up gold. But those who knew her quiet eyes could see the truth beneath disguise. She hadn't left for hate or spite, she left to chase her inner light. The prince rode out at break of day, across the dunes, the falcon's way. He sought the trail her camel drew, a path of loss the heavens knew. He found her shawl near wind-worn stone, still warm with scent of rose and home. He held it close, his heart undone, and whispered, "You were always one." The desert listened, soft, aware. It caught his grief and held it there, for every grain of sand would keep the secret lovers dared not speak. And from that day, his verses changed. They wept, they burned, they rearranged. Each line became a silent plea, each rhyme a tear the world could see. In markets wide, in towers tall, they spoke of her who left it all. But few could read the poet's code, that love survives though paths erode. For somewhere past the city's line, she built a tent of peace divine. She watched the sun, she learned to pray, and healed the parts that went astray. She'd trade her crown for endless sky, her jewels for stars that never lie. The world may call it loss or shame, but freedom called her by her name. And when the prince, alone at night, would gaze upon the S, in the quiet tent where moonlight fell, the princess wrote what hearts don't tell. Her ink was dusk, her pen was pain, each line a whisper, soft as rain. The parchment trembled in her hand, like memory she couldn't stand. She wrote to him, not to be read, but just to speak the words unsaid. My dearest heart, my desert flame, I left not pride, nor sought for fame. I left because I couldn't stay in love that law would strip away. Her tears made rivers through the text, each drop a promise, cursed and blessed. She paused, then smiled, the fragile kind that hides the storm behind the mind. She wrote of nights by candles' glow, where silence hummed what hearts should know, where he would read, his eyes divine, and she'd pretend those words weren't mine. You taught me love was not a throne, but fire that burns when left alone. You saw the woman, not the crown. You lifted me when I broke down. The wind slipped through, it touched her cheek, as though the night itself could speak. And somewhere far, across the sand, a poet stirred, with trembling hand. He felt her words without the page, as if her soul had crossed the cage. He took his pen and wrote anew, not knowing what his heart now knew. In palace halls, they sang his art, each verse a cry from broken heart. But none could see the truth behind the pain that birthed the poet's mind. They thought he praised the desert's hue. They thought he spoke of skies so blue. But every line, though calm and wise, was shaped by her in hidden guise. To love, he wrote, is to release the bird that sings and calls at peace. To bide her wings is not divine, but cruel, for love must still be mine. And though he smiled when crowds would cheer, the smile would fade when night drew near. For moonlight brought her sin again, and memory whispered through his pen. He kept her shawl, her ring, her thread, beside his pillow, where he bled. The scent of rose, though faint, remained, a trace of love the world had chained. Back in her tent, she lit a flame, and watched the paper call her name. Each letter burned, each spark took flight, and vanished softly in the night. Forgive me, love, she whispered low, for I must leave for both to grow. You'll rule your world, I'll find my peace in letting go love's true release. The desert sighed, the stars were kind. They knew the pain she left behind. She prayed not once for gold or fame, but whispered softly, just his name. Days turned to weeks, the sun would rise, and paint her dreams in golden dyes. Yet still she'd hear, in wind's caress, the poet's voice, his tenderness. He too would ride through endless sand, with letters clenched within his hand. He'd never send them though they burned, for some loves ache but never turn. My princess lost to fate's cruel art. You took my crown, but left my heart. They think I write of sky and dune, but all I see, your eyes, your moon. The falcons flew, the rivers slept. The kingdom watched, the poets wept. Yet neither spoke, the world would break if truth escaped the paths they'd take. Then one dawn broke, the rarest hue, the desert gold, the sky still blue. A rider came from far away, with words that time could not decay. He bore a chest of cedar wood, bound in silk where letters stood. Inside, the poem she'd once burned returned to him, untouched, unturned. A note atop in simple hand, if ever found, you will understand. He froze in awe, his breath was flame. Her ashes wrote his very name. He read the words, his soul laid bare. The desert stilled, as if in prayer. I never left you, not in soul. My love was quiet, pure and whole. They took my crown, but not my heart, for that will live where you impart. And in that dawn, he understood why she had left, why hearts must brood. To love is not to hold or chain, but bless, release, and love again. He climbed the dunes where she had prayed, and felt her spirit where she stayed. He knelt and wrote upon the sand the final truth she'd understand. You left it all, but not in vain, for in your loss I found my name. The poet, prince, the lover's soul. You made my half at last feel whole. The desert wept, the wind grew mild. The world was still, the stars beguiled. And somewhere far, the princess sighed, her heart at peace, her soul untied. Silence, the space between two hearts, where love still lives though life departs. No words, no touch, no written plea, yet both still breathe the same memory. The princess walked through golden light. Her eyes still caught the edge of night. Each dawn reminded what she'd lost. Each sunset whispered love's soft cost. She didn't speak, she didn't need, for silence said what hearts still bleed. Her tears became the desert rain. Her smile, a mask to hide her pain. The prince, within his towered keep, could hardly dream, could barely sleep. He'd stand where falcons kiss the wind, and hear her voice, though none had sinned. The city roared with praise and cheer, but none could touch what he held dear. For love was now a ghostly flame that burned in silence without name. He wrote at night when all was still, his words the echo of his will. Each poem whispered to the stars of wounds that healed but left deep scars. She is not gone, his verses said. She lives where silence turns to thread. Between each breath, between each sigh, she walks the wind, she never dies. The princess, too, by lonely fire, would hum the songs of old desire. No minstrel near, no courtly sound, just beating heart and sacred ground. She spoke to God beneath the skies, her prayers half tears, half lullabies. If love was sin, forgive my soul, for he was part of what made me whole. The wind replied with tender grace, and kissed the salt upon her face. She smiled and whispered through her pain, he feels me still, across the plain. In every grain of sand they crossed. A piece of heart, a dream was lost. Yet silence built a bridge unseen between the was and might have been. She'd watch the stars her lover knew, and wonder if he watched them too. And though no letter reached her hand, she felt his words across the land. In silence we are more than near, for souls can speak when none can hear. Time passed, the world forgot their name, but silence kept its gentle flame. It wove their love through years and skies, through poets' hearts and dreamers' eyes. The prince grew wise, his crown grew worn, but deep within, a vow was sworn. If ever love can live again, I'll walk her path, through sun and rain. And she, though far, still felt the same. Her heart still beat to his soft name. In every prayer, in every sigh, she felt his soul was passing by. One night, the desert changed its hue. The wind grew soft, the stars withdrew. A silence deep, too deep to bear, spread through the dunes, hung in the air. The prince awoke, his chest grew tight. He felt her presence through the night. He closed his eyes and whispered low, if this is death, I'm ready to go. Far in her tent, her candle burned. Her final breath to heaven turned. She smiled, as if to say, I know. And with the wind, she let it go. At dawn, the kingdom bells would chime. Two souls had crossed the edge of time. No one could see, no one could tell. But silence spoke, it knew too well. The falcon soared, the dunes were still. The air was heavy, warm and chill. Two spirits met where stars reside, and love, at last, was justified. In royal halls, his name was praised. The poet king the world had raised, but none could grasp his final art. He'd left the throne to guard his heart, and deep within the desert's core, where love had lived and breathed before, the wind still hums, the stars still glow. The silence whispers what they know. Love does not end when voices cease. It sleeps in silence, wrapped in peace. Between two souls, no wall, no pain. Just quiet, like a soft refrain.